All right, what's up? What's up? Welcome everybody to our next session in this Unlocking Greatness series. Today we are going to be talking specifically about navigating emotional triggers for professional success. This can actually be applied to your personal life as well, but more specifically, I want to help you navigate this path that you're on to achieve professional success. Oftentimes, and the reason why this is so important, and I'm coming out of the gate very passionate about this, is because in my experience of working with high performers, whether that's business owners, executives, sales professionals, entrepreneurs, I often find that it is the internal emotional challenges that they possess that hinder their ability to achieve professional success. And yet, most of us, as we run into professional challenges, we seek professional solutions. And by that, I mean we look for a new structure, a new strategy, a new process in our business. We look to try and scale. We look to incorporate a new product or a service. And none of those things are bad in and of themselves. As a matter of fact, it's wise to continually be looking at your processes, to be looking at your strategies, to be understanding how to utilize different tools and techniques to grow your business, to structure your business, to serve your clients better, to win more clients over. All of those things are so incredibly important. But more often than not, what's hindering your success is an emotional trigger. It's some struggle from the past, some challenge, some hurt, some issue that is still festering inside of you that's hindering you from being able to achieve the success that you desire. So that's what I want to talk specifically about today. That's what I want to be able to help you with in this specific session is how to navigate those emotional triggers so you can achieve the success that you're working so hard to achieve. I mean, it just seems like we got to do this, right? We want to eliminate every barrier that is hindering our ability to succeed. Okay, so first off, I want to talk about common challenges that I see people face that in this realm of emotional challenge and ultimately emotional trigger. So, things that I often see are things like burnout. It's becoming more and more of a topic of conversation today. We're exhausted, we're overworked, we're just spent. And this happens at the employee level, and this happens at the leadership and ownership level. We are putting all of ourselves into our work life, and then we're trying to put all of ourselves into our home life, and we just are spent. We're exhausted, and we don't know if we have what it takes anymore. Balancing work and life, trying to find some harmony between the two. That is another trigger that we face. By the way, I just saw a comment come in and asking the question, will a replay of this be available? And the answer is yes. You can find replays of every single one of these sessions in our private Unlocking Greatness Facebook community. So just keep an eye out for the replays of those if you cannot make this live session in its totality. Okay, back to various challenges that you're facing or that I see people are facing. So I've talked about burnout. I've talked about this balance of work and life. More specifically, you typically what's happening is we're pouring so much of ourself into our professional life that we don't have enough for our personal life. Our personal life will almost always be the one to struggle when those two things are pitted against each other. So that is a challenge, and it causes a lot of struggle within us. But typically, there are past challenges that hinder our ability to balance that appropriately. We think it's just a function of the work, but I think that there are some deeper issues there that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Um, Another thing that I see often is interpersonal conflict. Sometimes this is just simply our inability to relate humanly to other people. We can be short tempered. We can lack trust. There are just so many things that hinder our ability to build strong personal relationships. Sometimes that's because of a conflict of personality. Other times it's because of something that's happened in the past, reminds us of something or something that happens now that reminds us of something in the past. There's just a lot of different reasons why we have interpersonal conflicts. So, again, just to highlight challenges that we face: burnout, work life balance, relational and interpersonal conflict. All of these things create these emotional challenges for us that are hindering our ability to succeed. So, I want to help you understand a little bit more about some of these things, some of these issues that I see people facing, you may be facing too. So, one of the first emotional triggers that I see a lot of people struggle with is past trauma. And I've talked about this a lot as it relates to myself, my own personal tragedies, my own failings, the interpersonal conflicts with others from my past that I've worked with or related to. And so, these things can be such a challenge. We can have experienced loss, abandonment, addiction, health issues, disability, or maybe just simply being done dirty by somebody else. I mean, I've heard some just wild stories um, from some of my clients in which they had a serious negative experience or a significant negative experience with somebody from their youth that has carried into their present ability to see themselves for who they are, to relate to other people the way that they could or should, and ultimately to be successful. Just wild stuff. So, these things, we have to understand them if we're going to understand why we get triggered. We may not even realize that we're being triggered, but once we go back into our past, these things become uncovered. And next week, in our next session, we're going to be talking about utilizing the wound analysis framework, which you can find in my book, Wounds. That's where I first unpacked that. But we're going to talk about how to leverage the wound analysis framework to heal from past trauma and understand how that's impacted us both in the past and now in the present. But we'll get to that next week. So, past trauma is one thing. Two, and sometimes these are tied together. The second emotional trigger that I see a lot, and I'm talking in successful, highly driven, high performing individuals, is self worth and professional success. So people often tie their self worth to their success record, to their track record. And I understand it's hard to get away from doing that. I mean, when you have been successful for a long period of time, it can be really difficult to not associate yourself with somebody that is successful. But when we tie ourselves directly to that track record for success, we are setting ourselves up for potential failure or worse, disaster. So we have to be really careful. On the flip side, if we've had a significant failure, like I did when my business was challenging or being challenged in the early or I guess mid 2000s, and the snowball effect of the economy, and I ended up losing my house and so many other things. And for a while, I started to feel like, or I felt like I could never succeed again. That in some sense, I was just a failure because I was tying my self worth, my identity to an event. And that was just a significant mistake. So, self worth and professional success can be a serious emotional trigger, whether it is an abundance of success or a lack thereof. So dangerous. This is one area I see this play out in a lot, by the way, is salespeople that have been successful or have made money. They start to believe that they are just successful by nature. They forget what got them there, and they end up finding themselves in a stalemate or a stall in which they can't get over the hump, and they actually start to regress, and they're not able to achieve the success that they once did because they forgot what it took to get them there in the first place. Because they've just rooted themselves, tied themselves to that label of a successful professional. It's great to say that I'm successful. It's great to achieve those things, but we have to be really, really careful because it just does a lot to our psyche. Three, another trigger that can hinder our professional success is our healthy balance of our professional and personal areas of life. Now, I want to challenge this thinking a little bit right out of the gate and say that there is no such thing as your personal life and then your professional life. I understand, even in today's work from home society, that you go to work, whether that's just to a desk, log into a computer, and then you go home or you log off the computer and you leave the kitchen table, whatever that may be. But I understand that there's different domains and there's different roles, responsibilities, functions in each of those areas. But I need you to understand this very, very clearly. You cannot shut your brain off to one or the other. Even when you check out completely and go on vacation, you are still a professional. You have to go back and go back to work. Those things are just intertwined. Part of who you are, all of who you are really, impacts both of those areas. So, on one hand, I just want to encourage you to think that this is holistic, your professional life and your personal life, just like your spiritual life. There's no domains for Christianity and not domains for Christianity if you're a Christian. You just are at all times in all places. And so, whether you're in church or outside of church, you're to represent Christ. You're to live by a specific set of values. You are to treat people in a specific manner. It doesn't matter where you are. It's funny to me, by the way, when it comes to this is just a little aside, but it's funny to me how Christians, when they show up at church on Sunday, they are kind, gracious, generous. They won't cut somebody off in the church parking lot, hopefully. But as soon as they leave that church on Sunday and they head to breakfast, man, they will cut people off. They will jump ahead in the line at the brunch. I mean, they will do whatever it takes. It's like all of a sudden they forget that they are called by God to be a certain way. We don't get to do that. We don't get to turn these things on and off. All that to say, when there is a lot of tension going on in your life, when there is a struggle to balance the prioritization of your personal life and your professional life, that can trigger you. And so you start getting more and more frustrated. You have the Sunday scaries. You don't want to go to work on Monday. You can't wait for the weekend. You are literally living to escape the professional side of your life because all you want to do is relax. And I understand we should all want to relax, but I guarantee you that there are better ways that you can approach work to be more productive, achieve more success, and find more personal balance. But that takes a lot more unpacking. That's for a whole nother day. But that's an emotional trigger. And finally, overall, I would say one of the other really big challenges I see, one of the big triggers emotionally, is mental well being. Um, we do a terrible job of us as a society of taking care of ourselves. We don't rest, we don't recover, we don't focus enough on sleep. We're all about hustle, 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 grind, grind, grind. And it's just so stupid because, as much as success is important to you, if you aren't healthy physically, emotionally, and mentally, you are going to shatter. You are going to be crushed to nothing. And so I see a lot of people that struggle with negative thought cycles that just have just a very unhealthy mindset. And unhealthy may not even be thinking negative thoughts. An unhealthy mental state may be always and only thinking about the next achievement. Like, be driven, work hard, seek the greatness that you've been created for. Make all the money you possibly can in this world. But yo, chill too. Just give yourself some space to just be free and think, to pray, to hear from God. It's so important that we think about these things. Okay, So, what I want to do here, transitioning into this next piece, and this is going to be the remainder of our time together, just another 3 or 4 minutes probably on this. But I want to walk you through a technique to help you manage and ultimately or eventually overcome these challenging emotional triggers that you are facing. So, this is the tool, this is a resource that we have created for our paid coaching members. You have access to it, whether you join a mini course or you join our entire annual coaching program. But I'm going to share a little bit of this with you today. And this is around cognitive behavioral reframing. In a nutshell, this is changing the way you think. And so, what I want to help you do is to see that there are practical ways to address these negative thought patterns, these negative emotions that you are feeling, that you are dealing with. And so I'm not going to share this resource, in guide form like we do with the community. But if you want to write this down, I absolutely encourage you to do this. So there are 7 steps here. 7 steps. It's going to be a lot, but I'm going to bang through these really, really quickly so you can get all of these and try and get as much value as you can out of this session. So, number one, if you want to reframe the negative thoughts in your mind, if you want to really work through this cognitive behavioral reframing, the first thing you need to do is identify the negative thoughts that regularly come into your mind. Literally, write down the negative thought and write down when you're usually having these thoughts. Is it around certain people? Is it in certain situations? Is it at certain times of the day, certain days of the week, days of the month, whatever? So, first up, you want to identify the negative thoughts. What are the negative thoughts and when are they occurring? That's number one. Number two, challenge the negative thoughts. Here are 3 questions that you can ask yourself to challenge the negative thoughts that are running rampant in your mind. Number 1, is this thought rational? I'm not saying it's not real. If you have fear, stress, anxiety, anger, all of these negative or potentially negative thoughts are real. I don't want to discount the fact that they're real and they are really hard to deal with. But oftentimes they are irrational. And so the first question is, are they rational? Is my thought, my negative thought, is it rational? 2, what evidence do I have for this thought? Is this coming from a place of truth, from a single experience, from a pattern of experiences? Is this real? Do I have evidence that there is truth to this thought that I continue to have or that I have from time to time? And number 3, when challenging a negative thought, the question you should ask yourself is there another way for me to view this situation? Or is there another way? Is there another perspective into this thought that I'm having? So that's around challenging the negative thoughts. I told you we're blasting through these, but it's really important that I get through all 7. Number 3, if you want to reframe these negative thoughts, I want you to think about stopping the thought and reframing it. So, what I would like you to do is I would like you to consider writing down a neutral or a positive reframe for something that I'm thinking. So let me give you one quick example and I'm going to move on from this. If I lost a deal with a client, it would be very easy for me to say, um, I'm a loser. I'm a failure. Here I go. I lost another client. Reframing that, I could say to myself, and again, this is just a scenario I'm making up, but it's actually happened to me. Um, I could reframe this and say, I did all I could for that client during the time that we worked together. We came to a place where that client no longer needed the services that I was providing to them. At the same time, here are 3 things that I could learn and do differently next time to maybe extend that relationship, right? So it's not like I'm trying to um, discount the thought. It's not like I'm saying it's not real or it didn't really happen. I'm not even trying to make something out of it that's not. I'm just saying, like, let me reframe that and really rethink why I think that way. Number four, step four in this cognitive behavioral reframe is behavioral activation. List 3 small, achievable goals that you can crush this next week. What are 3 simple goals that you can absolutely nail this week? Everything and anything is on the table. And you may be saying to yourself, what do 3 small goals have anything to do with me thinking negatively about myself or about a situation? Because when we can accomplish, achieve, and build momentum of positivity in real accomplishment, we can oftentimes ward off and overcome the negative thoughts that we have about ourselves and about the situations that we're in. So again, if you are regularly frustrated with the way you look, and like physically, you're out of shape, and maybe the smallest goal that you can set for yourself for the next week is you're going to go out and you're going to put your shoes on and you're going to walk outside for 10 minutes every day, or 3 days a week, or 5 days a week, whatever, something simple, and then just go do it. You will feel incredibly accomplished by just doing something so simple. Don't go set these big, massive goals, just something super, super small. So, behavioral activation by putting a positive occurrence or event into our rhythm, we can start to reframe the negativity that sometimes can consume us. Number 5, we're on to number 5. Establish a routine of self care. Establish a routine for self-care. Look at, we are being inundated with exhaustion, with working hard, and we should throw every bit of ourselves into the things that we are passionate about. I'm all for it. And you can ask anybody around me. When I'm in, I'm all in. I used to live by this mantra, go big or go home. It was like, I'm all in on the things I'm all in on. So I'm all about pouring myself into every effort and the goals that I have for myself professionally, personally, spiritually. Like I want to be all about it. But I have learned to build a routine of self-care. I wear a Whoop strap right now. It's up here on my bicep. Sometimes I wear it on my wrist. It's been super helpful in helping me to track metrics, the strain that I'm putting on my body, as well as how my body is recovering. It's helped me to sleep better. So I focus on getting at least 7.5 hours of real sleep, not in bed for 7.5 hours, but 7.5 hours of actual down sleep time. I try to I try to read the Bible on a daily basis. I'm pretty good about that. I pray every single day. Those things reframe my mind and set me off in the right direction. Some of you have heard that I'm on a no alcohol journey at this point. It's probably not going to be forever. I've been about a month into this right now, and I will go through at least the end of 2023 doing this. It's just about, I'm focused more on being healthy, a healthy head, heart, and spirit. I want, and body. I want to be as healthy as possible. I'm in the gym at least 5 days a week. I try to get outside the other 2 days a week, even if I don't work out. So, what is that for you? What can you do to focus positively on your sleep, on your eating, on your exercise, on your fun, and on your relaxation? Build some self-care habits into that. Number 6, this kind of falls off the back of number 5, but number 6 is create techniques for relaxation. And you may be saying to yourself, Ryan, you don't get it. I have a job to do. I have a business to run. I have a lot of goals to achieve. And then I go home and I have a family at home and I got to invest into them. And I'm like, I get it. I get all of it. I'm down for that. I'm all about it myself. But I still find time to relax. On afternoons, Sunday afternoons after church, a lot of times we go to church, we go to brunch as a family, and then, man, I just loaf on the couch for a couple of hours before I typically then strap a weight vest on and go out for a couple of mile walk. But there's just times for relaxation. At the end of the night, people dog on, just mindlessly consuming Netflix or social media. By the end of the night, all I want to do is sit down and chill. And that's time to relax for myself, with my family. It's just a great time. So practice relaxation techniques. And number 7 is to create a rhythm of regular assessment and adjustment. So as you go through those 6 things, you need to regularly assess whether or not they're working, and whatever is not working, you need to make adjustments to. Pretty simple and straightforward if you ask me, but you got to do it. Look, this is all about self-discovery. We need to understand why we're experiencing these emotions, these negative emotions, these negative thought patterns, in order to figure out how to overcome them. And then we need to practice positive habits to work our way out of them, or when we get in them, to better handle them. So these are some helpful tips to help us reframe our thinking around these negative emotions and these things that are triggering us on a day in and day out basis. You don't just have to be on social media to be triggered. Sometimes we just trigger ourselves by the way that we think and act. So again, hopefully that's helpful for you as it relates to reframing these negative thoughts and emotions. And if you love that, comment on the video, send me a DM. I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you work through your negative thought patterns, and if something like the tool that I've shared with you in these 7 steps is helpful for you. Okay, landing the plane. Now what? Well, we got to go and take action. And so again, we need to start with, and just to kind of quickly work back what we've covered in this session today. Number one is we need to identify the common challenges that we are facing on our professional journey. What are the things you're challenged with? Lack of sales, challenge to open doors, challenge to be productive. Like what are the challenges that you're facing? Not enough time, not enough resources. And then identify whether or not there is some kind of negative thought, emotion, or experience that may be hindering your ability to show up better and execute better than you are in those areas. Again, there's a lot more inner working here that takes more coaching, more conversation, but this is some high level stuff that you can work on. So we want to identify the common challenges that we're facing. We want to understand our emotional triggers, the negative experiences of our past, our wounds, the hurt, the heartache, the tragedy that's causing us or potentially hindering our ability to move forward and succeed. And then finally, we want to look at and implement techniques that will help us to reframe those negative thoughts. Something like this cognitive behavioral reframing process that we use when we coach with our clients. I hope this is helpful for you guys. One of the things, again, I alluded to at the beginning that this brings up is you may be saying to yourself, Ryan, you don't understand what I've been through, or you don't understand what I'm going through. And you're right. I don't completely understand it because I don't live your life. But I want you to understand that I have, and again, if you've read my book, if you read my book, you will see, in addition to those 9 significant wounds, I've dealt with many, many others. And throughout the course of my life, and by God's grace, I believe I've come up with a framework to help us overcome these wounds and ultimately use these to unlock the greatness that's inside of us. And that's what we're going to be talking about in our next session when we work through the wound analysis framework. This isn't just about, oh, wounds, I'm hurting, I'm struggling. It's wounds. Where are my opportunities to achieve the greatness that God has created me for, to achieve success, to find joy, fulfillment, contentment, all of these things. So that's what's up in our next session. If you're joining us live, thank you so much. If you're watching this replay, thank you so much. If you are participating in the Unlocking Greatness community, please, please, please jump in and comment on this post, start another post, and share a little bit about your journey in this area. If you are not a part of this community, what are you doing? If you're watching on social because we put a replay up or a short or a reel, get into the game. Join the Unlocking Greatness community and let us together transform ourselves into the men and women God has created us for our good and for the glory of God. Thank you guys so much. Talk to you soon.